His name is John C. Kim. His followers once believed he could read minds and even heal the sick. But federal prosecutors say Kim is a con man who lured gullible people into a martial arts program, took their money, and then brainwashed them into a cult. Now Kim is on trial, accused of tax evasion. The scheme was first exposed in a Channel 2 investigation, Cult or Con. Pam Zekman broke the story. She's here now with surprising new information about what really motivated John C. Kim. Pam?
Lester, this is no ordinary tax cheating scheme. We've learned today the government hopes to prove that John C. Kim, the so-called cult leader, was motivated by more than money. One government witness will testify that Kim wanted to strike out at the U.S. government and the American people. John C. Kim's followers believed their martial arts master could read minds, heal bodies, and kill enemies without touching them. But today, as he headed into federal court, he seemed just a mere mortal. Students and instructors at the schools Kim operated claimed they took advantage of vulnerable people using mind control techniques that began with martial arts training. One of those students, Russ Johnson, lost $15,000 and 8 years of his life following Kim.
I see him as a cult leader, another phony messiah. I was definitely brainwashed.
But today, Kim laughed off the charge. Are you a cult leader who brainwashed thousands of students through your school?
No, I don't. My wife is Christian. My daughter is Christian. I have a hard time to speak English. I don't have any superpower.
Using whatever powers he did have, Kim and his co-defendants got students to pay up to $18,000 in cash for lessons. Then they allegedly failed to report all of the earnings. In court documents obtained by Channel 2, the government says that Kim's motive for all this was revenge. The documents say a witness will testify that Kim told him he was angry because an American soldier married his sister and she left Korea. In return, he was prepared to screw the American people when he came to the U.S., and he crossed his fingers when he took the citizenship oath. Kim denies it.
I love this country.
The government also says Kim's co-defendants used threats of violence to keep followers in line. And some, including Thomas White, seen walking behind Kim, made threats against me after my stories first aired. They quote White as saying, "Zekman is going to end up dead and her brains will be turned to mush." We took threats like that seriously, but they did not stop us from reporting this story. Today, 2 more of Kim's co-defendants pled guilty, bringing the number of guilty pleas so far in the case to 6. Trial for Kim and the rest of the defendants is expected to take at least 3 months. Lester?
Pam.
He claims to be a master of martial arts. His name was on the storefront signs of dozens of schools throughout the country, including here in Chicago. But the government says John C. Kim was really the mastermind of a criminal tax fraud scheme that spanned 20 years. Pam Zekman first broke the story of how Kim used cult-like techniques to con students. She's live in the newsroom now with the latest developments on this story. Pam.
Linda, the government claims Kim and his top school officials skimmed at least $1 million from the schools in just a few months. They'll never know how much was skimmed over the years because records were routinely burned. But today the government's first witness testified how he was schooled in more than martial arts by Kim. He was schooled in how to cheat the IRS. He's known as a master of martial arts, but in opening arguments, the government called John C. Kim a master of deception. And today, their first witness, Alex Gutierrez, told a federal court jury how he was deceived, brainwashed, he said, to give up his dream of becoming a dentist and turn over his life and his money to Kim. It was the first testimony from a follower who once believed Kim had supernatural powers and used cult tactics to command obedience from his students and his staff, a charge Kim denies. He left his family, he sold his car, he believed that you had special powers, that you could read minds.
That's not true, he lied.
As he moved up from student to instructor to school owner, Gutierrez testified he was trained by Kim to get students to pay for lessons in cash. Instructors cashed their paychecks and gave Kim the money. School owners paid for schools in cash. And everyone had to give Kim cash birthday presents and prayer money. An envelope with bank statements seized by the IRS had this prayer from Kim: "Please make me one of the 10 richest men in the world." To conceal the money actually made in the schools, Gutierrez says owners were instructed to use codes. When a student paid $300, they put it on the records by moving over the decimal point to show $3. And Gutierrez says Kim showed him how he concealed the cash he carried by pulling up his pants to reveal a 1-inch thick wad strapped to his leg. The witness said Kim once boasted that by 1983 he'd made $10 million in 10 years, a goal Kim had set for himself when he first came to this country. Kim denies he cheated on his taxes. He says he filed returns that reported all of his income, franchise fees from the schools. Lester and Linda.
Okay, Pam. Jury deliberations are now underway in a tax fraud trial with a bizarre twist. The federal indictment is a result of a Channel 2 investigation back in 1989. Now, after a 2-month trial, the jury is deliberating the verdict. It all centers on John C. Kim, who ran martial arts schools and allegedly used mind control to influence students and skim cash. Pam Zekman is live in our newsroom now with the latest in the story. Pam?
Lester, to prove the case, the government is trying to convince the jury that followers of John C. Kim believed Kim was more than a martial arts master. He became their spiritual leader, who they believed had supernatural powers, and the most faithful were even willing to die for him. In closing arguments, the government said John C. Kim, a martial arts master, came to the United States with a master plan to make $10 million in 10 years. He opened more than a dozen schools in the Chicago area, and as we disclosed in our first reports, instructors were trained to exploit vulnerable students, to convince them to give all their money to Kim, to pay thousands of dollars for lessons in cash. Cash so money could be skimmed, a charge Kim denied when I confronted him before the trial. Hey, why did you have people pay in cash? Was that to defraud the government? Prosecutors argued to the jury that Kim's followers helped him skim money because he had so much control over them. Control one witness likened to brainwashing. He believed that you had special powers, that you could read minds.
That's not true. He lied.
Transcripts of testimony by former instructors detail the most incredible example of Kim's control. A loyalty test given by Kim that began with this choice. Leave the schools and just be, as he put it, walking dead with no future. Or, Kim said, the best option for us would be to move on to the next life, meaning we would need to die. One witness explained he chose death because there is no life without school. Both testified that Kim then choked them. One said, Kim grabbed my throat around my windpipe. He squeezed very hard to a point where it was impossible for me to breathe. Just before I blacked out, he let go of me and asked if I was sure this is what I wanted to do, and I said yes. Before blacking out again, the witness recalled that Kim let go and said that I had passed. Passed what? The prosecutor asked. I had passed a loyalty test. Defense attorneys argued the loyalty test was little more than a fraternity hazing or hallucinations by one of the witnesses who had once used drugs. They said Kim knew nothing about tax skimming and blamed any tax cheating on 5 other defendants who've already pleaded guilty in the case. Lester?
All right, Pam, thank you.